that this is about change for a changing NBA. Gives me great pleasure, and I feel like I'm introducing a rock band up here on stage with a lot of amps. This is a group that is dynamic, it's diverse, and trust me, I spent a couple hours with them this morning. They were determined. I think Ted Leonsis had to stop and say, wait a minute, we're not going to start work just yet. We still have to have this press conference this afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to introduce some people that you already know, and some you'll certainly get to know over the coming months and years with Monumental Basketball. Just to my left, he's from Harvard Law, from Hampton. Let's hear it for the Pirates, right? That's it. And also great experience in the NFL. And so much he brings to the table. He's our Chief Planning and Operating Officer. Let's say hello to Sashi Brown. Everyone has a story about the next guy, but this press conference is only an hour long, so I'm not going to tell another story about Tommy Sheppard. Let's say hello to the general manager of the Washington Wizards, Tommy Sheppard. The man who put this band all together. Let's say hello to the managing partner of Monumental Sports Entertainment, Ted Leonsis. Many of you know, if you're from Washington, D.C., it's a name that is so strong in our nation's capital. It's the name Thompson. He's now part, again, of the Wizards family. He's the Vice President of Athlete Development and Engagement. Did I get that title right? I think I did, right? Close. The glare of John Thompson scares me to this day. Let's say hello to John Thompson III. The next man is the WNBA's winningest coach. We're proud to call him ours. But again, it's diversity and diverse backgrounds. It is what is coming to Monumental Basketball. I think about Mike Thibault. His career, while he's the WNBA's winningest coach, actually started, what's that team in LA you were with, the Lakers? Won a couple titles?
They were decent.
Yeah, they were decent. Won a couple titles. Some guy named Magic Johnson used to play. Let's say hello to Mike Thibault. He's the head coach and general manager of the Washington. And I mentioned this is about thinking in a new way and a changing world, and it's very much a world. Again, I documented that things have changed in 5 or 10 years. I think about 20 years ago, we didn't think so much about the international basketball world, and now that is a reality that is so strong in the NBA because it truly is a global game. Our next member of our Monumental Basketball rock band, if you will, is our Chief of Athlete Care and Performance. He most recently was the Philadelphia 76ers, but he also was with Barcelona, Mosque Club, Dr. Daniel Medina. The Barcelona club had some guy named Messi who's still kicking you. See if you give me an autograph. Okay. All right. In all seriousness, this day is about making history because it's changing. And I don't say that lightly. As someone who's been in sports all my life, we're witnessing just a tremendous change in how things are done in all professional sports, but specifically we're here to talk about the change of Monumental Basketball. And we'll start with Ted Leonsis. And I think about when we began this journey, if you will, as both fans of the club and people that were involved in the club, you specified, and I opened by talking about the importance of time, that you were going to take your time in this. And I think some of us thought, well, there'll be a quick decision. But you took the time on this journey. What did you discover on this journey, and how did we reach today?
Thank you, Dave. Well, first thing I found out was we have a lot of smart people all throughout Monumental Sports, and that if we could somehow unleash the power of all of the great people in the company and then be additive, that we could make an organization that was well positioned to take advantage of what our community has to offer and also what the challenges that would be presented to us by the new NBA. And so today really is the culmination of really more than 4 months worth of work and due diligence, and we announced a new operation within our holding company called Monumental Basketball. Monumental Basketball will have 2 operations. One operation focused on the teams with general managers. We brought Mike Thibault here because Mike has deep basketball knowledge both in the NBA and now is the winningest coach in the WNBA, and Yesterday was a great day for us. The team played well. The new commissioner of the Wnba was there, got a tour of our facility, and told me that you're probably on your way to being the best, most successful franchise in the league. And I said, well, this is what we want to do for all of our franchises. We've certainly been able to do that with the Washington Capitals and several of our other holdings in esports and even the Arena Football League. And so all of our focus and attention now has to be on basketball. And so we've made two operations, two divisions. The first is basketball, which we've named Tommy as the general manager, and he will have all of the players and the coaches and the strategy built around building great teams at the Wizards and the Go-Go and our NBA 2K franchise. And so before I talk about the rest of the operation, I thought I would turn it over to Tommy, congratulate him on executing in a very, very dignified manner in very, very difficult circumstances. That Tommy was able to work with us and work for us while we were interviewing, while we were doing due diligence, and just the way that he handled himself both professionally and personally was sincerely awesome, and it really advantaged him in when we had to make this decision. The work started with Tommy, give us a strategy document that you and your team create around the draft. Show us what you will do in the draft, your first pick, how this is who you want to be the first pick, how you will fool people into not thinking that that's who we're going to take, and then how will we collect more young assets, and if that's what we end up doing, how will that then translate into the strategic plan around free agency. And I was very, very impressed with the work that Tommy and his team did. They executed to that plan, and it really showed us how from the draft to free agency to the summer league, we could run that operation. And Tommy's been not only fully empowered, but he's been given a much more robust budget to go very, very deep and add to the coaching staffs and scouts and the like, so that we can have a world-class, excellent organization with the Wizards. So I'll turn it over to Tommy. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. I really just want to say how incredibly honored it is for me to have this position, but I want to make it very clear it's a team of teams. We have fantastic people that were part of this entire process, and they're all sitting in this room. Some of them, unfortunately, Coach Brooks is not here. He's the wise one that got out as far away from us as possible. He's on a remote island somewhere. But I'm looking at my family with Frank Ross and Sashi and Dr. Wnba and Brett Greenberg and so many people. I hate to name names and I'll miss somebody, but our basketball operations staff, it's a family. And our medical staff, the ability that they brought to us to help us in the pre-screening for draft was phenomenal. And all the hours that people put in just to go through this last couple of months, it really felt like this entire time we were executing a plan that we talked about forever. And nothing felt new, nothing felt uncomfortable. It's something we just kind of knew this is how we should do our business. And when Ted and I sat down, the opportunity to discuss the future, his vision lined up exactly where I was, where my background in international sports, and I'm a huge consumer and investigator of other people's habits, other sports. What do the other teams do so well that we got to be better at? And to bring in the staff up here that are adding to our firepower, if you will, is tremendous. It's humbling to look around and see all the different people that we have. But I want to make it very clear, the success for the Wizards moving forward is because of the commitment from ownership, from all the partners that we have access to, all the resources that they've made available to us, to be in the District of Columbia, one of the world's most powerful cities. And we want to bring a team that's, I think all of our fans are going to be very proud of. We thank them for their loyalty, and I cannot promise enough something to look forward to in the future. We're very grateful.
Thank you, Tommy. And while we're making investments deep in basketball, I learned a lot during our more than 50 interviews, talking to people throughout the NBA and the league office. I also talk to people in football and baseball and presidents of clubs and executives throughout the league. I did the same in soccer. And I just wanted to know, what do great organizations do? And it's pretty simple. It's you get the most diverse, smartest people that you can find, and you unleash their intellect. You make sure that when there's a problem or an opportunity, you get people around the table and you collaborate so that you can make a collectively good decision. And once we were able to remove the can we find enough good people and rebuild deeply our basketball operation, then it was, how can we get competitive advantage and bring in people from football, or at least that's what their background is, and create a shared services business and get the best and brightest people, be it from USA Basketball or the NCAA or professional soccer. And Mike has lots of opinions and will be adding a lot of value from his experience, and that's probably the biggest cultural difference that we will have as an organization. I want to hear everyone's voice. I think everyone matters when people can look at a problem and opportunity and go around it and feel ownership in that discussion. The onboarding of the player, the making everyone successful becomes very, very important. So the first executive that we brought in is Sashi Brown. And Sashi, I really hit it off with. He's a very analytic, very smart, deep thinker, very strategic thinker. He'll be doing budgeting and planning and helping on the facilities and innovating around technology and taking some of the basketball operations, the day-to-day, so that he can provide these services to not just the Wizards, but all that makes us unique. We have more than 50 players on the contract between the Wizards and the Go-Go and the Mystics and the NBA 2K. And I believe that we should treat all of our players with fairness and dignity and make sure that they have access to all of our assets. And when I met Sashi and did research on him, not only, we won't hold his Harvard Law School degree against him, but he was a general manager of 2 NFL teams. And the NFL, big businesses, very, very adept at how they use their technology and their infrastructure. And I said, we want to continue to find ways to try and get some competitive advantage, use our resource, use our owners group, use Washington, D.C., use all of the facilities, use the budget that is available. And so that's the first hire, and I thought it'd be good to welcome Sashi and have you make a few comments.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. And I'm grateful and honored to be here. You know, be part of the NBA is tremendous, but to be honest, you know, Monumental Sports has been tremendous in terms of being a premier and elite ownership group. They are recognized as being world class. Ted and I sat down a couple months ago now, and when we did, I could immediately see why they've been so good in the community and why they've won championships here. His vision for what we want to create on the basketball operations with Tommy and Scott and Mike is unique. But it's also dynamic and something that I certainly buy into. So my role here will be to bring together all of our resources. As Ted said, not only is it Ted, but he's got a really impressive ownership group behind him. And they've been really committed to this community, and we've had a lot of success in a lot of areas here. And my job is going to be to innovate and prepare and develop our people and marshal our resources to find synergies across and opportunities across, from the Mystics to the Go-Go to District Gaming to the Wizards, and bring a championship caliber operation across all of our basketball properties. I'm really excited about joining Monumental Sports and this family and working with these guys up here. It's a tremendous amount of experience, a lot that I have to learn from Mike, Tommy, the rest of the staff, John, but we're going to do great things, and I'll bring my own experience and perspective and build something special. So I'm excited about it.
And I think Sashi makes a great point. Again, the commitment is throughout all of Monumental Basketball. Mike Tebow, I certainly know you can speak to that as general manager and coach of the Washington Mystics. the strong commitment that's being made, and the feeling of inclusion that the Mystics have within the entire Monumental Basketball family. That makes a difference for you as a coach, but specifically for you as a players, and it's something that I hear from the players all the time.
Well, I'll try to be really brief. This morning, we talked about this, and I made the comment that, you know, when you're in the sports business, there are so many ups and downs, and before I came here, I thought what was headed toward an all-time high when I was coaching in Connecticut. I got fired after a 26-8 season, and you know, I had the opportunity, being paid to take a step away from basketball and get away for a year if I wanted. And except that I came down and met with Ted about 2 or 3 weeks later, and we had a discussion. And those who have followed the Mystics in this room know that they were coming off a 5-29 and 6-28 back-to-back seasons. There weren't very many people in the stands, and my decision, and we kind of interviewed each other, and I wanted to know what this organization was about. And I had done some research about the ownership group and everything else. But the main discussion came down to is, if you want to do this, we will give you the opportunity and the resources to try to change things and to do it in a way. You know, I've been part of rebuilds in the NBA, and I've been part of being a championship team in LA, and so, you know, the rebuild in Chicago took time. Things take time to do right, and you can't piecemeal it, you can't do it accidentally. There has to be a purpose to what you do, and there's got to be a lot of planning and forethought, and there's got to be an integration of everybody in the organization. And that was the thing that struck me, is that I was given the opportunity to shape an organization that had been down into something we thought could be special. The arena was not kind of in the total plan at that point, but it was a discussion. Well, in watching what was going on yesterday, and Ted and I talked about it this morning, is that we were in a full building yesterday that had a home court advantage in a new facility that our players are excited about. We have players that like each other, they want to be there, that feel they are a part of something bigger. They appreciate what we've done over the last 3 or 4 months to integrate our teams, and that they are being treated like special human beings that they are. The return is that they give back. That's what we ask them to give back. And we have an opportunity to do that in all of our teams. And, you know, hopefully, you know, the race is on to get the first championship. We're trying to do that now. But, you know, this has been a 7-year process to get to where we are. And we took steps along the way that had to be taken. You know, you hear about NBA teams that, you know, they got to learn to win, and then they got to learn to lose at a higher level in winning. And so that was the steps we had to take. We had to learn to be a playoff team, then we had to learn how to get through the first 1 or 2 opponents. And we finally got to the finals last year and got beat by a better team. But the idea is that as an organization, we had to learn from that. The resources are here, the commitment is here, and we have a lot of people that have all the same goals in mind. I want to see the Wizards as much as I want to win, as much as I want to see my own team win. And that's got to be the commitment we have. And I've just been grateful that this is probably going to be the last stop in my coaching and GM career, because it's become home for me very quickly. And I've been given the opportunity by Ted and others to do this. And so, you know, the one thing I would say, you know, and everybody will talk about it, is that not everything is going to happen at once. And it's going to be a culmination of events, and it started in the right direction this summer, and I think that's where we're headed.
I think it sounds like a championship parade in September, so go ahead and make your plans, if you will.
So the reason we asked Mike here too is that I do want everyone to understand that it's all of our players, it's all of our organization, and the Mystics are very important to us, as are the Go-Go. And when you look around the NBA, the care and feeding of the spectacular greatest athletes in the world is incredibly important. We saw this season not only with the Wizards but throughout the league, the importance of being both in the best physical condition, if you are injured, how you curate the care of the rehabilitation after the injury, their mental health, their family, and how connected you can make them to the community. And it just seemed that we should make bigger investments and try to be able to uplift the organization by having the fittest, most self-actualized and happiest players and their families. And so several years ago, I started to look at who are the best organizations, how are they organized, what leagues have created the most value, and a lot of the signals was that soccer and professional football outside of the US was where the value was being created. Some of those teams have $600, $700 million payrolls. They have players that are always the highest paid athletes. And we hosted, I don't know if you remember, but when Barcelona came here and we got the chance to hang out with Messi, and I said, I can't believe this guy is like 5'5". I towered over him as the greatest athlete. And a lot of the credit that goes to what these teams have built, that starts with their organization and getting players when they're young in their academy system and growing up in a certain identity and way. And so when I asked, what could we do to uplift our game, and I couldn't be happy with the work that Dr. Wnba and MedStar and all of the doctors were giving us and helping us there. But Dr. Wnba has other clients, sad to say, and has to deal with lots of things. So I said, what could we create that takes our great staff and turbocharges it and gets deeper into all of the capabilities that MedStar has? And so we said, let's try to find someone unique who really knows soccer and also was exposed to all the idiosyncrasies of the NBA. And we were very fortunate to find Dr. Medina, and we spent quality time together. And I think this will be a part of our difference. And he traveled far and wide to get here. I'd like to introduce Dr. Medina.
Thank you. I'm really... It was a long trip to get here, but I'm happy we finally made it. I'm really grateful to be part of the organization, particularly at this time where the project is just starting. My role, as has been said, I'll be leading the athletic care and performance department, which pretty much is really transversal through the whole organization. And we hope to build a player-centric department where we will do 360 caring from the player as a person at first, and trying to always, in the complexity that NBA has for its calendar and for each individual, meaning that in a team we'll have different players in different times, some younger players that will be focusing in education, creating good habits, and understanding of how technology well used can help them to have a longer career and a better performance. And the older players with a stronger background, also how technology and also habits can help them to get better performance and longer careers as well. So basically, we'll be focusing and introducing technology, improving what we already have, and bridging communication between players and the organization and the inner different parts of our department: mental health, nutrition, performance, a 360, as I said, player-centric department that hopefully will help to bring the championship. Also, having this structure where we have different teams, particularly having the G League and NBA so close together, being able to develop and grow players in-house.
A little known fact, Dr. Medina went to junior and senior year of high school here in Michigan. He was red-shirted. He came here to play basketball. So I was just
a little bit pretentious.
and talking to a lot of the players and dealing with a lot of the players and talking to all of our coaches, how these players are treated as people, and how you attend to how to make them professionals and how to worry about what they're before and after they go onto the court has become more and more important. And I've always felt that it's incumbent on us, not only because it's the right thing to do, but we have such big investments in the players. And to only think that we should have a touch point with them while they're in the practice or while they're at the games, seem to be underutilizing all of the resources and assets that we had. And so we've had a really, really talented person who's been in our marketing department, and I don't want to embarrass you, but Sashi, if you could stand up for 1 second. Sashi Jones has always been, she kept putting the bug in my ear on we can do more, we can do more. And as you know, I went to Georgetown, and Georgetown is a Jesuit university that deals with full human development and unlock all of your potential and get your head and your heart and your soul and your body in alignment. And I wanted to also find someone who obviously knew the NCAA and USA basketball that would add to our knowledge base. And so I called John, Coach Thompson, and I said, would you consider coming to our group, but being on the Monumental Services side and being able, with Sashia, to create a one-of-a-kind, very differentiated program that should get our players happier and more developed. But also I'm hoping that between what Dr. Medina is doing and what John will be doing, that will be differentiated, because the players want to go to franchises that really care about them, that obviously we can pay them the money, but that they know that we have their back, that we understand how difficult their jobs are, all of the pressures that are on them and their families. And so I reached out and asked John if he would consider doing it, and he said yes. So John Thompson III is coming on and joining us and starting today. So John?
I gotta say first, I'm gonna digress. Coach, you were talking about, you've been through a lot of rebuilds, the Lakers, Chicago, and it takes time. Drafting Michael Jordan kind of helps speed up.
Speeds it up.
Speeds it up just a little bit.
We had an owner that was telling us to draft somebody else or trade for Sam Bowie, so we had to stay fast when we did that draft.
That's right. I had to say that. One, I'm really excited to be here. I've done a lot of press conferences in this building, and I want to thank Ted and the ownership group for giving me a chance to come back as part of Monumental Basketball. And it's exciting. Ted touched on some of the stuff he learned at Georgetown. There's a phrase, cure personalis, and that's developing the whole human. And that's part of what we want to take some of the systems that we already have in place here and grow and advance those to put our athletes, and we mentioned already, under Monumental Basketball, we have over 50 athletes. And to put them in a position to maximize their potential, selfishly for their own sake as well as for our sake, on the court and off the court, and to put them in a position where they're in a better position to accomplish their goals on the court and off the court. So, I am excited about it. We have the Wizards, the Mystics, the Go-Go, and District Gaming, and with all of those, just to kind of connect the dots, connect all the players, make sure that there's a synergy amongst every entity. We aren't four separate entities. We're Monumental Basketball. And that's one thing that, in all the discussions I've had with Ted, that's a reoccurring theme that keeps coming up. We want to make sure this is one organization, one group, and how we as an organization can put the players, how can I help the coaches, the GMs of each individual space get more out of their athletes. And so I'm really excited.
John's got his hanky,
See, I knew I was going to talk, so I kind of put it in.
I also want to announce that we very much intend to launch a very, very robust grassroots basketball operation. I think that it's obvious when Bradley Beal and John Wall both own AAU teams, and we know at some point that players will be coming out of high school right into the G League and then to the NBA. One, we have to get much more global, but also local, and get deeply involved with AAU and high schools. And I'm very, very committed for Monumental Basketball locally, both in Maryland and Virginia, and especially here in DC, be it building playgrounds, be it providing coaches. I'd like to get our alumni to serve as mentors. I want to create a program called the Wnba for mentor and coaches, where we can activate the expertise and frankly get our players connected, our former players connected to a higher calling and put them back to work in a way. And I think that cradle to grave, onboarding someone, helping someone at a young age, getting them into the program, getting them onto one of our teams, having them be successful, having them graduate, if you will, and go to life after basketball and then be a member of our alumni community. That's what we want to be able to do. And we're doing all of that because it is the right thing to do for our players and our community. But I also think it's going to help us to win. I've seen that happen with the Washington Capitals. I've seen that happen with some of our businesses, where if you surround yourself with the best people, and they're all in it for the right reason, and we have a real clarity and purpose in mind. The Wizards deserve to be in service to one of the best, most knowledgeable fan bases in the world, and this community loves basketball. And I've let them down. We haven't won 50 games. We haven't competed for a championship since we've owned the team. And I've seen the power of a winning sports team. I saw what happened when the Caps finally won the Stanley Cup. I saw Mike bring his team to the finals last year. And nothing will bring that community closer together. Nothing will be a better feeling for every one of us to be in service to our fan base and the community than build a championship. And that's what we're going to do. No politics involved, no agendas involved, singular purpose. We all like each other. We want to hear the voices of our 600 full-time employees and 4,000 part-time employees. Our owners are going to be more involved. You constantly have to gauge back and forth. Is it good to be involved? Is it not good to be involved? Every agent, every player that I've talked to said the more they see Raul Fernandez and Lorene Powell jobs and me, the more connected they feel to what our vision and what our ultimate plan is. And so we are in this mantra of many hands make light work. I think that that's a very important takeaway from this. We broke the mold a little bit. Don't know if it's the final right answer. I'm sure there's going to be tweaks along the way, but if we like each other and enjoy what we're doing together and want to be at the office and we can have free and open dialogue, we can continue to sense and respond to make something great, and we'll be in it together. And so I think it was a lot of work. It was I appreciate everyone's patience. We're all going to get to work starting on Monday, and Tommy will be making a whole series of announcements showing you how we'll enrich the basketball talents and IP throughout the organization. And then each of the leaders in the group will be doing likewise. You going to talk about Brett for a second?
Absolutely. One thing, when we were sitting in front of Mr. Leonsis earlier in April, again, I knew that we had some fantastic people already in-house that we were ready to go. So one of the first moves we made was promoting Brett Greenberg to Assistant General Manager. So give it up for Brett. The right hand with Frank Ross and personnel. So I think we have the right people that were already on board. I can't say enough about our strategy department. Joe Sill, one of the very best analytical people you'll ever meet in your life, created a ton of things for us to be more data-driven, value-driven, and that's the way the Wizards are moving forward. I hate leaving names out because there's so many people that were involved, but we have a fantastic group of people. There'll be more to come, certainly, but I cannot say enough to our gratitude to Mr. Leonsis and your patience as we put this together. We executed it. Now we got to go do all the stuff we said we'd do.
And I'll say about the Wnba, I said great talent. I got to spend some quality time with Brett, and he grew up a Bullets fan and a Wizards fan, and interned with us, and finally got a job. We were paying him a little bit of money, and but he's been here for 10 years, and it's the kind of success story that great organizations have. Frank, who's our head scout, we're going to unleash his capabilities and all of the people in his staff by adding to staff. Not only did he play basketball here, I think he played basketball for Eddie Tapscott at American, but he was a police officer in Ward 8. He grew up and went to high school right around our building in St. Elizabeth. He would drop his mom off at work at St. Elizabeth's. And so the pride that all of us are taking, Georgetown University to St. E's, we love the community. We owe it to the community to build a basketball team as great as the fan base. That's the goal, that's the singular focus, and it starts today. Well, thank you for coming, appreciate it very much. And we'll break going now for some one-on-ones, and I'd love for our employees to get the opportunity to meet some of our new people too.
Culture of collaboration that will be part of this Monumental Basketball team. We want to go ahead and start with some questions. Just wait until you receive the mic and identify who you're with, and you ask your question at that point. Yeah.
It's so dark, can you see?
Yeah. Is anybody out there? Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
This is for Ted. Obviously, there's been several months on this process to figure some things out. April 2nd is when you made the change in the front office. There were some reports of interviews sometime in mid-May, and then we get to here. At what point for you did this structure come into play?
I was very restless when the process started. It's not like a business. These are really, really big operations now, multi-billion-dollar enterprises. And many of us in ownership have been involved in successful big companies. And you do succession planning. And if you're going to make a big change and you're going to change the identity of the company and bring in new management, that process can take well over a year. And in sports, it kind of was, well, you met someone for 2 hours, what's the problem? Just give them the keys. And it just wasn't sitting with me well, and that's why I just asked for help and asked other enterprises, other teams, how did they do it? And there's a sameness in the NBA. There's unbelievably talented people in the NBA, but most of them have the similar backgrounds. I'd interview people and they'd be with an organization for 25 years. And, they'd work their way slowly up. And so what I came to was, well, we can do that. We can deeply fortify ourselves and have deep basketball knowledge. But if we say, let's celebrate diversity, and diversity isn't just about skin color and your gender, it's about different experiences and different ideas. And that's what I was craving. The most interesting conversations I was having was with people at the league. The leagues now are being filled with executives leading basketball operations that came from business. And so I said, why can't we do both? Why can't we make big investments and go deep in basketball and then bring people in that have tangential experience, but they're really, really smart and they can add a lot of value? And really what our job will be is just to get the 360 view and the votes from everyone. Because if you carbon date all of the teams and their successes and their misses, ours included, there were big moments. And I think when you make a decision around a big moment, this year's draft was a big moment, and I watched Tommy really get a lot of input from a lot of people. He ultimately made the final decision, but I was able to say, so what the doctors say, what are the scouts saying? What are the analytics showing? Have you seen him play? And to be able to bring all of that together, now we'll have a basketball board, and there'll be other people obviously who are in the room and who will add that value, because it's so important when you make that big decision that the entire organization get behind it. So I came to that conclusion probably about a month ago, that I didn't want to go the traditional route and just find the one person and say, here, replicate what we've been doing, only you do what the last person was doing. I just felt that it was better to break the responsibilities up in a different way and just add to the talent pool.
We have another question? Over here.
Ted, who up here reports to who? And secondly, you went through this in hockey in which you promoted a GM from within. Is this vastly different from what you did in there, or what's the compare and contrast?
So in our hockey operation, the president of the team is an owner, Dick Patrick, and he has thought like an owner. He has made good decisions, tough decisions, but he thought like an owner. And I just thought, in this case, while they report to ownership, that would be analogous. And so Tommy reports to me, Sashi reports to me, Danny reports to me, and Mike reports to me. And they'll be the direct reports, but I don't really look at it that way in that it's who's got the seat at the table. John has a seat at the table, Frank, Sashia, Dr. Wnba, Brett. I mean, we will have a formal basketball board. And the idea here is, as we do planning and the like, if it's for the Wizards, Tommy and Brett will be running that. We'll be adding value. It's not like it's a matrix organization. It's everyone knows what their lines of responsibility are, but we have to bring these people together. What's plan A, what's plan B, what's plan C? So I will be active in it. You know, what I've learned, especially in the last couple of months, you get blamed if you're not involved. You get blamed if you are involved. And so it comes with the territory. You can't whine about it. We've decided that many hands will make light work, and I think it'll be a real collaborative structure.
You have another question out there?
Ted, this question's for you, and I have a question for Tommy as well. When you said you mentioned that you interviewed more than 50 people, were they official interviews where you called people in or spoke to them on the phone? Were they casual conversations with
Oh,
people?
no, I'm sorry. I don't mean I interviewed 50 people for the general manager's job. I told everyone I'd go through introspection, and so I wanted to talk to all of our players and former players and coaches and former coaches and front office people, and I went over to the Caps and really looked at what they were doing. I went up to the league office, talked to key people at the league office, and then I started to talk to presidents and owners of football teams and baseball teams and soccer teams. There's a lot of smart people out there, and we all kind of compete, but they're free with their advice, and most of it is really good. And then I interviewed and the process too, you have to remember, you have to get permission. That's the other thing that kind of like no other business. You get permission, and then someone says, okay, here's what his title has to be, here's what his responsibility has to be, and here's who he has to report to. No other business does a competitor tell you how this will be organized. And so I did a lot of interviews. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I think it was healthy for the people who were doing the interviews too. And but based on that, and based when I had my conversation first with John about whole player development, it was like, well, it was different input to me. They weren't trying to tell me that they could manage the Wizards. And I'll also say that Tommy mentioned Joe Sill. We have someone who's wicked smart and really, really analytic. And he, in April 22nd, wrote me a 97-page email. Can't make it up, right? 97 pages. And the very first paragraph was, here are the organizations that have won championships. It's only been 10 or 11 the last 35, 40 years in the NBA, and where their general managers came from. And they either were with the team or someone who was promoted within the organization. It's infrequent that someone from the outside, hits the ground running and is able to do that. And so there was a lot of work done on it, and I just felt that this would help Tommy to be much more successful. He could focus with his team on basketball, and we could focus on a lot of the accoutrements around each of the teams, and that we could help provide more differentiation and apply more resources.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
That's from The Athletic. Sashi, I'm curious, in Cleveland, you took an approach where you really loaded up on draft capital, and obviously it always has to do with the situation of the specific organization you're in. But Ted has talked openly about retooling over the next 2 or 3 years. And I'm wondering how much of your strategy in Cleveland had to do with that specific situation and it worked then, and how much of it has to do with your general philosophies on rebuilding a team?
Yeah, appreciate the question. And I'll answer it 2 ways. First, I think everything has to do with your situation. You have to understand yourself and what's the best path forward, and I don't think there's always just one. But we're really focused. I also want to focus on Monumental today and congratulate the guys who have been promoted. The second way I'd answer is the basketball decisions here, although we'll work collaboratively, ultimately will be Tommy's and Mike's decisions. And so those are the guys that are going to be in charge of our rosters and our decisions at the end of the day, and we've got full trust in that. So, thank you.
Hey, Tommy, just to ask my question for you, how, you've been part of this organization. How different is this setup than what you're accustomed to and what you experienced in the past with this Monumental Basketball?
I think it's just being able to create a vision that we all kind of had collectively shared and thought that this could work. I don't know that I look backwards as much as forward thinking and the way we're going to approach everything moving forward. This has been an exciting thing. And this development here was part of our original interview when I sat with Mr. Leonsis. How can we create world-class things for players first? And it always starts with healthcare. It always starts with programs for after basketball. It always starts with the greatest facilities. And those are what attracts people. And then you put it in Washington, D.C. So these are things ideas we've been generating for a long time. I think the execution model now moving forward with all the people, all the pieces we have in place, it's a fantastic opportunity.
Brothers?
My name is Troy Halliburton with Truth About It. This question is for Ted. Back in April, when you first started this process, when you revamped the front office position, do you think that all of this revamping of the organization would have happened if the Wizards had met their goals and made the playoffs? Because that was kind of like the catalyst that started this whole situation. Or do you think that this was kind of like the natural progression of where?
No, I think certainly after the offseason that just happened, if you were thinking it was business as usual, you would have been left far behind. And so I was growing restless and antsy, but the way I was managing and leading the franchise was by outcomes. And now we are going to be a lot more focused on the process and the collaboration and the development of the entire organization. And, the new NBA, this was a radical change this summer. And while it scares a lot of people, there's some goodness that came out of it. I think the talent is much more evenly spread. I also think this notion that we all were chasing of, well, we all need 3 max players. I mean, think of the how off strategy that was in team building. So we'll pay 3 players $90 million, and then we'll play the rest of the roster like vet minimums, and to think you'll have fun and camaraderie and we're all in this together. And now you look around the league, it's more like it used to be, where you had 2 all-stars and a really good rotation with a lot of depth. Depth is becoming so much more important in this league just because of the injuries. It's unbelievable. You look at the amount of great players who went down. And so we had our existential moment. Our highest paid player, our 5-time All-Star, may not play at all next year, probably won't play at all next year. Tommy and I laugh. I used to start my day reading the Washington Post, Now I start my day reading the John Wall daily exercise video and how did he do yesterday. And John knows that. And we text and talk all the time. And I think great athletes think that's fantastic. We care about him. And so I don't know if we hadn't made the playoffs, I still think we would have made something to adjust to the new NBA, and couple it with John being injured, we had radical change. And one thing I give Tommy a lot of credit for, and again, I said he was advantaged, it was like, show me how this would work. I think the comment today was the fastest trade you ever made in your career was with Dwight. And like I spent 15 minutes with Dwight Howard, while he was here. And so being able to quickly show that an organization like this, you still have to be able to do things in real time. But they gave me a plan and a strategy and the budget. And we said, as long as you're on this plan, strategy, and budget, go for it. The only time you really need to escalate it, because we wouldn't have signed off on it collectively, is when you go off of that. I think if we had implemented that in the past, we would be better situated right now.
I want to make it real clear with the situation when we're talking about the speed of that trade. It was simply because we took a phone call, hey, is there an opportunity to do this deal? And we said yes, because we knew that was where we were headed. The addition of Thomas Bryant coming back to us, the opportunity that to have him as the starting center from day one, I think out of respect to Dwight, knowing where he wanted to be and where his career needed to be, was out on the floor getting minutes, and that wasn't available here. That's not we weren't looking to move him so quick like that as much as it was, this is a great opportunity to pivot. And I think when you keep adding deals together, well, the kinds of players we're trying to acquire here, I think this summer we had to be very nimble, but strategically looking forward, I think we did a good job. And I give Brett full credit when we're looking at things. Some moves have to be strategic and they have to take time, and other moves you have to do quickly. And I think we were able to have a good balance this summer. And one thing I also want to really pipe in on is the support we have from Coach Brooks and his staff and the ability that they had to pivot. When Coach Brooks got here, we won 49 games and we were one game away from going to the conference finals. That was kind of the team he thought coming in the door. Well, now this takes him back to his Okie City days. And before that team really broke through, they had to have a hard work, high character mentality. And this reinvigorated him in a lot of ways, to be honest with you. And I think his development staff is one of the very best in the NBA. His assistant coaches, we're adding pieces as we go, but they are all committed to this, where we're going right now. The future is develop players, continue to get high character people, and I think we're going to do great things. But I can't say enough.